Welcome to the Life Success and Legacy Podcast. We're glad you're here, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey, everybody, I want to welcome you back to the next episode of the Life Success Legacy Podcast. My name is Chris Bay, and today we got a special treat for you. In fact, we see that many of the views increase when we do interviews with some of our clients or team members, etc. So we've got another interview for you today. I'm joined today by one of my very dear friends, Jeff King. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Chris.
Jeff is fresh off the beaches of Panama City.
Panama
right?
City Beach, Florida. Yeah.
Yep, down on the Gulf Coast. Got to take a little time, solo time, right?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Yeah. And that was a good trip for you?
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I've never done anything like that before, at least for that long. And it was great. It was very refreshing. Provided me some good reflection time, and yeah, it was good for many reasons. So
Yeah. I'm super excited that you got to take that trip, take that time. And now I'm glad that you're back.
Yeah.
Jeff also lives here in Lawrence, Kansas, but that was not always the case.
Right.
So why don't we start off? What I'd love to do is, for our listeners, we're going to do a couple of interviews with Jeff. One, just about his family, their IBC journey personally. But then we're going to do a follow-up interview because Jeff does dream conversations with many of our clients for Life Success and Legacy, and he's done that for years for us. So many of you listeners recognize this face. You've done a dream conversation with Jeff, but we want to use another interview to kind of talk about why do we do the dream conversation? Why is it designed the way it is? What's the purpose of it, so that people can maybe understand a little bit more about why we do that? Because that's not a common activity, I think, in the financial world. So, Jeff, why don't you start off by giving us a little bit of background about you, your family, your lifetime, your career, and then we'll bring it up to current day and what you're involved in.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Chris. Thanks for this invitation to be on your podcast. So background, I spent most of my professional life doing pastoral ministry in a couple of different church settings. And so that's kind of the work side, but maybe more importantly, married. My wife and I, Karine, have been married for over 46 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. And we got married quite young, which is partly part of our financial story. And then we also have 5 children, and they're all grown, of course, by now. And our youngest one's getting married in May. So when that happens, all 5 will be married. And then we have 5 grandchildren with the 6th one on the way. And we're fortunate enough that most of our kids live close by. 2 sets of our kids and their families live here in Lawrence, and then 2 in Kansas City. But then we have a daughter that lives in Berlin, and she has a little boy that's about to turn 2, and another one on the way. And so that's the background there. But yeah, so we pastored. When we pastored, we lived in Osage City, which is actually where I grew up, and my parents lived there until they died. And so that's my home area back in Osage City, Osage County, and pastored there all those years. Actually started a church in 1988 from scratch, and pastored that for 20 years. Then stepped away and did a couple of other things, still ministry related, did more counseling stuff for a few years, and then stepped back into the church world on staff with the church, and then eventually became their lead pastor when the pastor that I joined on with retired. And so we did that up until end of 2018, and stepped away from the church ministry in that setting, and I started my own organization called Transmuto, which is a nonprofit really dedicated on helping people with spiritual formation stuff, but also primarily around a tool called the Enneagram, which is a
Hmm.
personality typing system that very, very insightful and powerful in helping us develop self-awareness and then utilize that in a variety of arenas, whether it's your own personal growth, spiritual formation, relationship enhancement. I work with teams and organizations to help build staff relationships by understanding themselves better and one another more effectively. So I do a variety of things with that. So that's kind of the background. We moved to Lawrence 5 years ago now. I can't believe we've been here.
Hmm.
It was 5 years ago, March 2021, and uh, love being in a new place and exploring Lawrence, and really feel like we've found a place here, a home here, and
Hmm.
continue my work with Transmuto here, but also been privileged to join on with you guys at LSL and helping you out with the dream conversation. So I don't know, that's my background.
Awesome. That's good stuff. I have like so many questions just about that piece that I
Yeah,
want to unpack.
sure.
You also, in your professional career, there is that counseling element, and you've
Uh,
taught some courses around that as well. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I was an adjunct instructor for a community college, Allen Community College. They happened to have a satellite campus back in the day in Burlingame, which was just 8 miles up the road from where we were living, and I was serving as a pastor. So I taught for them for, oh man, I don't know how many years. I think I started in 1989 and taught a variety of courses for them, anywhere from New Testament, Old Testament survey courses to world religions, but really settled in. My main gig with them was teaching marriage and family relations. I
Hmm.
have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. And then I also taught ethics for them and did that
Hmm.
in the class. And then they shifted a lot of their classroom stuff to online. And so I helped develop the online program and worked with Allen Community College in that area and taught classes online for a long time as well. So,
Hmm. Yeah, you bring a lot to the table. On the Enneagram, well, I'll just
mhm.
say with Transmuto, as you said, it's through the lens of the Enneagram.
uh
I'll just throw this out that one of the most powerful experiences that our little family of four had was years ago. We invited you, and I remember we did it down in the basement of
Yeah.
our old house, and you came down and helped us discuss our relationships, our interactions as a foursome
hmm
in the context of our Enneagram types.
Yeah.
And what I experienced from that was, in some cases, really eye opening, things that I had never really put together in relationships within our family. But then just like context and appreciation for where people come from, their views, their perspectives, etc. And you did Enneagram training, a 3-year program, right?
Yes. There's a professional certification to become a certified Enneagram teacher. It got a little bit interrupted by COVID because
Mm-hmm.
when I first started, we were had all of our classes in person, and so I'd fly out to California or drive to Denver for classes
Mm-hmm.
in person. And then when COVID hit, everything, like everybody else, had to radically shift paradigms. So it
Yeah.
took them a while to get kind of up and going online with all their courses. But it eventually finished the certification process, and now, yeah, I'm happy to say I'm a certified Enneagram teacher. And
Mm-hmm.
you want me to tell a little bit about what the Enneagram is?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank
yeah.
you.
So the Enneagram, like I said,
Read
is
my mind.
a personality typing system, and similar to Myers-Briggs and some other tools or platforms like that. But what the Enneagram does, it identifies 9 kind of ways of seeing the world. Um, and it identifies these common patterns, the 9 of them. What Ennea is Latin for 9, Latin or Greek, I can't remember. But anyways, and then it's each, and it goes by a number, and they're placed around a circle. So that's where the gram part comes. But it identifies these 9 different ways that we kind of see the world. And we all come at it with our unique perspective. And it deals beyond just behavior and outward traits, which those are important, what the Enneagram does really dives in to see what your core motivations are, what core fears, goals, what we believe we need to have to make life work for us, to feel a sense of control, agency, feel like our world's in order and in place. And there's not a right or wrong to them. Each of them are important, but they're nine distinct viewpoints, each with their own kind of set of characteristics that we operate from. And with that, once we begin to understand that, it does a couple of things. It helps us to gain a more accurate and compassionate understanding of ourselves.
Mhm.
And then when that's kind of outworked, then we can extend that to the other person to have a more accurate and compassionate understanding of them and understand, oh, this is why they do what they do.
Yeah.
Because they're coming from their own set of motivations, core fears, um, goals and things that they think going to make life work for them. And so it just, yeah, it gives us insight to be able to work with ourselves more effectively and then to be able to work with other people more effectively. So it's really helpful, again, not just for your own personal growth and development, as important as that is, but it's also extremely helpful in developing better relationships with those who are really important to us, like our partner, our children, people we work with. Um, and one other thing with that, and understanding and working with it, it really helps us not to take their personality so personally, because we often, when that other person does what they do, it rubs us a bit because it's kind of pushing on
Yes.
us. It creates friction because it's kind of often like sticking us in the very most vulnerable, tender spots that we have.
Hmm.
And so what we do is we get reactive to that. Our animal instinct comes out, and
Yes.
the fangs, the claws, the hair goes up on the back
Fight,
of our
flight,
neck.
freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we could just slow that down a bit and gain some understanding of why are each
Mhm.
of us doing what we do, and then why do we then interact the way we do, it really helps diffuse it and to be able to now, okay, we've got substantial information to work with that we can make meaningful change. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, that's kind of a brief summary of it. So,
Sounds like you've just brushed up on this concept and you're just starting to learn a little bit about it.
yeah, just pull that off the top of my head.
Well,
I'm
and
always working on how do you explain this in a way that
it's kind of like IBC,
makes
right?
it, yeah, it is.
Yeah, what's your elevator pitch?
It's so powerful.
I really
Yeah,
don't
well,
have one.
you got 45 minutes. I'll give you a quick
Yeah.
elevator speech.
Well, and the team all makes fun of me because we do these different
Right.
typing,
Hmm.
and oftentimes our team members, I will ask them to do a typing interview with you if they don't know their Enneagram type. And part of that is exactly what you said, is when we understand not only ourselves and have grace for ourselves and understanding, but also we can have that for other people. And people ask all the time when they meet Mike Everett and I, they're like, how in the world do you two work together because you're so different? And as well as anybody, like, we irritate each other, right? That's going to happen. But because we understand each other and how we're wired, we're able to have that compassion and that understanding in those moments. And that extends to the rest of the team too,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So we know how to not only highlight the strengths of different team members, but also to have compassion when they're working in those areas that maybe are a struggle for them.
Right. Yeah. And that's a huge piece of it because every type in the Enneagram system has amazing strengths, superpowers that are
Mm-hmm.
needed for the world to operate and for us to survive as a species. But those same strengths, when they're overplayed, also become liabilities. It's like
Yeah.
the only
Yeah.
tool in the toolbox, the old thing, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And,
Yeah.
that's great when you're working with wood, but it's not so good when you're working with glass.
Mm-hmm.
And so just to be able to understand that, and to be humble enough to acknowledge, yeah, what are my strengths and how can I bring those and present them and really show up with them, but also recognize I'm not gifted in every area and I need help in those other areas. And when I overdo my strength, it can become a limitation and a
Yeah.
liability. and
Yeah.
to learn when to recognize which is which is
Yeah.
huge. So
Well, and I'll just give a real quick example, but then I'd like for you, I'm guessing you didn't get that fancy microphone just for our podcast. Um,
went out and bought it just for you,
I
plus the
will
shirt.
share. Yeah, plus the shirt. Um, so on the Enneagram, I'm a type two,
Type two. Hmm.
and like all things that can become dangerous, right? And in my education days as a school principal, I wasn't really aware of healthy boundaries. So as a type two, we can over focus on other people's needs, not pay attention to our own, and we can constantly be looking to help other people, right? And so as a school principal, the opportunity to help never ends, right?
Storm.
And so I just continued to do that. And at the end of the day, I had nothing left for myself or my family. And so, as you mentioned, those types can have their strengths, their powers, their superpowers, but also their weaknesses. So, if people want to learn more about the Enneagram, you actually have your own podcast. Can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit
Yes.
about that?
You have a podcast called Nine Lives with Jeff King. So the nine playing off of the nine different types. In lives is there's nine different ways we live life. And and I would say too, some people say, how can you boil the whole world's population down into nine types? Well, it's fascinating how accurate those each type is in describing the unique perspectives. But there's also a great deal of latitude
Mm-hmm.
of every type. Every person does that type in their own unique way, kind of like the color red and how many shades of red are there,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's that freedom. There's a lot that goes into that. So anyway, that's where the title Nine Lives with Jeff King. So what I do on the podcast, and I'm not nearly as regular as you guys are with your podcast, but um, in fact, right now I'm just in the middle of releasing season number 9 for us, but
Mm-hmm.
I kind of alternate. I'll create panels where I bring in 3 people that either are of the same type or they have other commonalities together and interview them and just let them tell their story about whatever the topic is and
Mm-hmm.
kind of, because I think one of the best ways to learn is by hearing other people's stories because I think,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah, I can identify with that. Or
Mm-hmm.
I know somebody like that, or
Yeah.
that really helps give me a better insight to that person. So I'll do a season of panels, and that's a lot of fun. And then I'll do it, well, kind of what you do is more individual interviews as well, and
Mm-hmm.
talk about, that particular person's story or whatever role or expertise they bring to the table, and how the Enneagram kind of shows up for them in their profession or their skill set. So, but yeah, so it's on Spotify and the Apple Podcast thing and whatever platform. So,
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you for
hey,
sharing
well,
that.
thanks for giving me the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your IBC
Okay.
journey.
Hmm.
And I'd like to specifically, let's just go back. What was your kind of financial upbringing, your financial education? Who was it in your life that you learned about money,
Hmm.
or didn't learn about money? Right?
Right.
And what were some of those like principles or mindsets that you grew up with?
Yeah.
And did you have any shifts where, oh, I've always thought this, and now you think differently?
Hmm. Yeah. So I grew up, uh, my dad, kind of a blue collar worker. He was a parts manager for a GM dealership in our little
Mhm.
town. Did that job his whole life. So I always kind of grew up thinking, that was the paradigm. You picked a career, a job, and you did it your whole life because that's what I saw. That was my normal. My mom was stay-at-home mom. And so um, my upbringing, my education around money was a lot by osmosis. They really didn't ever sit us down to talk about uh, how you did it, except for they live by a principle: you don't go into debt. You
Mhm.
pay your bills. You don't go into debt. Live within your means. And I really super appreciative of that. Grateful because that put a lot of the sense of value and responsibility that. I bought into. Uh, there were some limitations of that because we kind of went without. I remember one of the fun things I would have when I go to my grandma's house that they actually had name brand cereal
Hmm.
at her house, and we never
Hmm.
had name brand cereal at my house
You
because,
finally got your Cocoa Puffs.
because mom was always stretching the budget to make sure, and so it was a lot of the off-brand generics, whatever, and
Mhm.
but that's what I, just realized, that you live within your means. And the other piece of education that I kind of got by osmosis was my mom was a brilliant budgeter, and I would see her almost every day with pencil and paper, writing down how much she spent, what was left, where that needs to go, and working that budget. And somehow they raised four of us kids and um, got us, we all went to college and all that stuff with this what's now I realize, very, very modest income that my dad
Mhm.
made. And they lived on the one single income
Yeah.
all of my upbringing. The other kind of challenge of that was I also was sick a lot as a young child. And
Mhm.
so that put a lot of extra burden, medical expenses, um, which I'm, sure created lots and lots of pressure and burden for them, but they never transferred that on. At least I didn't pick up on that as far as, living under the gun of just worrying out loud about money and stuff like that,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
any tension or fighting around money. I never witnessed that. But, now as an adult, I look back on, I see, oh my gosh, what were they dealing with? Just
Mhm.
really appreciate that. So that really kind of put the groundwork for me, and kind of going back, my wife and I got married very young. I was 20, she was 19, and poor. But we live by that
I've seen
same
those old
principle.
pictures. You got some sweet
I
lettuce going on
actually
top of
had
your
hair
head.
back then. Yeah. But we got married and went through college together, basically, finish up college and kind of live by that same principle, live within our means and you don't go into debt. And
Mhm.
somehow we pulled that off and did all that, raising our five children pretty much debt free. The only debt we ever encountered or took on was a mortgage for our house, um, and then later on, my wife and I both did our graduate school master's degree programs in our late 40s, early 50s, and I took out a student loan for that, but was able to pay that off thanks to IBC right away.
Mhm.
But we just
Mhm.
lived within that, which again was very, very helpful because pastoring, I started this church. There wasn't much salary involved in
Mhm.
that. So I worked two or three jobs, usually at a time, to make that happen. My wife had her own kind of cottage industry. She's an entertainer, and we did puppet shows and did all that kind of stuff
Mhm.
to help make ends meet. But raised our five kids debt free and were able to figure out ways to still take them on trips and do that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So that was, kind of the understanding growing up is I almost, and with my spiritual paradigm, really saw debt as a sin. And
Mhm.
if I borrowed money, I would just feel terribly guilty. I remember the first time I got a credit card,
Mhm.
and the first time I used it was like, oh my gosh, I just crossed the line. Even though I paid it
It's
off at the end of
all,
the month,
yeah,
it felt sinful. It felt bad.
yeah.
And so there was good things about that. And we didn't get ourselves in trouble with getting our head over our heads with debt. There was also the limitations and living with the scarcity mindset that also
Mhm.
was kind of the underbelly side of that. So yeah, that's kind of the background there.
So when you started learning about IBC, was
Hmm.
that a radical mindset shift for you? Did you come up against kind of like these roadblocks of what you've always thought or been
Couple of
taught?
things with that was because unfortunately in the church paradigm that we were in and pastored in, the whole Dave Ramsey approach was kind of the next to the Bible kind
Hmm.
of a thing. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of good things in that in terms of, again, living debt free and learning how to manage your money and all that. Uh, but there was a lot of teaching against whole life insurance. Um, and so the, the philosophy that was passed down was, buy term and invest the rest. Well, we didn't have a lot of rest to invest. And so we would
Same.
do our best to try to, do that. And then, I'm old enough, we lived through different things as far as, Y2K scare and then
Yeah.
9/11 and then the 2008 housing, bubble burst and, those kind of things where the little bit we would get in our Roth IRA that we created would just like,
Be gone.
dissipate, evaporate
Yeah.
overnight.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, So what, yeah. Um, and so, we had met through the Heart Connection
Mhm.
community, and I heard rumors you were doing this thing called IBC, but because of his whole life, my initial thought was like, oh, got to
Yeah.
stay away from that.
Yeah.
So, uh, we just didn't act on it for a while. Then, around 2014 is when we finally started our first policy and our strategy with IBC. Um, that was a mind shift, just to be able to say, okay, look at this whole life thing completely differently, um,
Mm.
and see the that it was guaranteed and it wasn't tied to the market. It wasn't going to go up and down and feel all loosey goosey and insecure and all that stuff, which is really important for me with my upbringing. Is there's this need for a nest egg, a
Mhm.
safety
Mhm.
cushion, the security piece. That's my style. So IBC kind of provided that. The other shift for me in that though was then to be able to say, um, it's okay to take a policy loan out because
Yeah,
it
because
still
when you're
felt
against
like,
debt, I've been
yeah,
waiting for this foot to drop because
yeah, because it would feel the same thing. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong or something
yeah.
against my, now, we're at risk and, all of this fear would come up. And so, and I'm still, that's a process of learning. No, this is just learning how to use and leverage your money. And if you do that with some wisdom, it's all still within your own system. It's just
Hmm.
being put in different places to create different, need or meet different needs or create, fulfill different purposes. So yeah, so that was a different bit of a mind shift for me was to use the money,
Hmm.
get it flowing, and that helps build your program. So
Yeah. So for our listeners,
uh,
what are some of the ways that you and Kareen have used your IBC system over the years?
yeah, we've done a couple of things. One is giving ourselves permission to go have some fun at times, because when you live in that scarcity mindset and the kind of from the fear-based thing, there's not a lot of margin to enjoy what you have.
Hmm.
And I remember one time we were actually driving to Lawrence to meet with you, and I think we were doing an update on Dream Conversation or something. And on the way, we realized we had this cash value available for us to use. And we decided on the spur of the moment as we were driving to Lawrence to do a Mediterranean cruise.
Yes, I remember that so clearly too.
And it was like, what? We get to do that? It's like,
Yeah.
wow. And it didn't, yeah, it didn't put us under. It
Hmm.
didn't destroy us financially. Um, so being able to, we've used it for things like that. We paid off some debt. We were able to take care of our mortgage and pay off
Hmm.
my master's degree student debt, even though it wasn't a huge amount. It was nice to get rid of that. We were
Hmm.
able to. We've made some major purchases like cars by utilizing our cash value and then paying back. So we became our bank, and I love how IBC, because in the conventional way, you save, 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 go buy your car and you're back to zero.
Yes. Yes.
Here it was like, oh, it's, it's still growing, and it's just a different way of doing it, different mindset. So we've been able to do some things like that. And then we realized because both my wife and I are kind of nest egg kind of mentality of
Mm.
and I mean, literally pinching pennies when we were first married. I remember one time I wanted so bad to buy a candy bar, and I couldn't afford it. And so that, I mean, we just lived within those constraints because we didn't
Yes.
want to go into debt, which I'm thankful for in many ways. Saved us from a lot of headaches that others may have to deal with. But anyways, where I was going with that. So what we do with our cash value, once we got 2 or 3 policies, we had this nice cash value in our policy, and it felt very secure.
Mm-hmm.
But we also began to realize, because the church, especially the first church I pastored, had no benefits. There was no retirement
Yeah.
offered. The denomination didn't have that until right at the very end. And so we had nothing for the idea of retire, whatever that idea of retirement. We had nothing for that stage of life to plan for or build off of. And so we began to kind of look at, through your coaching and some others in the LSL community, is to think, how could you leverage some of that cash value to build some passive income streams?
Mm.
So what we've done with that is we've taken some of our cash value to use for creating income stacking, snowball. We started off at TARDIS, and then done some dips kind of stuff, and then Networthy. So just creating some streams of passive income for us to keep building our strategy, our banking system, whatever the term you want to use. And so here I am, about to turn 67, and still don't want to retire, still working, but it's also nice to see that there's, provisions that we have now that when I was 50, I don't know that I would have known we could have had. So,
Well, and especially with your kind of, both you and Corrine, with your nest egg, as you say, nest
mhm,
egg mentality, that piece is important to have because it makes you feel safe and
right.
comfortable and all
Mhm,
that. I would imagine a vision for future passive income is similar to that nest egg. It's like if you don't have that, you start wondering or worrying
yeah.
about what's going to happen. But because you've been able to leverage, use your policy as collateral, right?
Mhm.
And get those dollars working for you and building your income stacking for the future, for your future passive income. I bet that gives you a sense of comfort to some
Yeah,
degree.
it does. It doesn't answer all the questions because
Mm-hmm.
there's no way to, you can't predict what it's going to look like in 20
Mm-hmm.
years. I do remember being in a business seminar kind of thing, and they were talking about, so what's your 15-year plan? I'm thinking, oh, 15 years. Then I did the math at 15 years, I'm going to be in my 80s, for crying out loud. What's that going to look like, And so
Yes.
there's sometimes, the whole thing of, how your health is going to be, and, long-term care and all that stuff. I mean, I don't know anybody that's got the crystal ball that gives a complete, security with all of that.
Yeah.
So their life still, is a journey of faith. And I live with that and hopefully adapt to that and can embrace
Mm-hmm.
that. But uh, but because of what IBC does provide, there is a sense of, okay, we've got a foundation to work with that
Mm-hmm.
helps us and does relieve a lot of the kind of fears that can wake you up at 3 in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
So you started your first policy back in what, the fall of
2014. Yeah. Mhm.
2014. And now you have a system of policies. How many policies do you guys have
I
now?
have 4 on me, 3 on my wife, and then we've got policies on grandchildren. So,
Okay. Okay. Um, so four on
well,
you, and then how
and
many on Kareen?
3 on her.
Three.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
seven, and then plus. The 5, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And another thing that we did with IBC and some of the coaching from some of those in the community is that when we moved to Lawrence, instead of a conventional mortgage, we did an all-in-one. And so we have that as kind of a always available HELOC kind of a thing that we can finance life out of. So it becomes kind of another, in a somewhat kind of another policy of sorts of available cash to help finance, and you cycle money through. So that's the other piece. So our system isn't maybe all that as exciting or sexy as some, but for us, it's meets our needs and been very helpful for us. So.
Yeah, that all-in-one, it's kind of like I hear some people describe it as a sweep account, right? And it's a way to leverage velocity banking if people have done their research around that. So I kind of see it as you've got your system of policies here, and then attached to that, instead of a traditional mortgage, you have a first position HELOC. Basically, it's an all-in-one, and you play the game of, because it is it is simple interest, right? Is you try to keep that balance low,
right?
And then you use your policies in and out of that, which that's a whole, not everybody's ready for that level of understanding, but it's worked for you guys.
It's working. That's still, I don't know if I'm an expert on it, but it's served us well. So
good. That's good. So you're doing income stacking. You've gotten over the hump of having debt to yourself, right?
Well, I'm getting there.
Once it starts getting up there pretty high, you're like, oh, we got to pay that down.
Well, yeah, and but some of that is just sometimes using one policy to take care of the premium for the other policy, and it's good moving money back and forth. So, it's so it's an ongoing work in progress, but I feel a lot more comfortable with it now. It's adjusting to think of yourself as a banker.
It is,
rather than, dependent on a bank kind of a thing. Yeah.
Well, like we say in our boot camps, that's one of the things we talk about is the mindsets.
The mindset.
And we say one of the mindset is think like a banker. We say, if we could replace your brain with a banker's brain, think about that. When people come to the bank and they make a deposit, does that bank just hang on to that? Do they clutch those dollars and just hang on to them? No. They get those dollars out working for them, and they bring back friends, right? And then you do it again. And so you constantly had that money working and flowing for you. As our friend Pay says, she thinks of those dollars as her employees or as her workers. And she says, I don't want them all sitting in the break room smoking and joking. I want them out working.
Yeah.
But it's a different mindset, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And I think everybody, has to be kind of getting that sense of self-awareness, what works for you. And I still want a certain amount in my cash value because I need that some nest egg. But I've learned to say I don't need it all a nest egg. I can put some of that to work.
Do you have a certain amount or a percentage or something? Because oftentimes I've heard people say, I always keep enough cash value to at least cover my base premiums on my policies. Have you come up with a rule of thumb for yourself?
That's kind of my basic one. And just to think, if some catastrophic thing happened, within reason, do we have enough in our policy that we could cover that? And I don't even know what that amount is. It's just a gut feel, I guess. I don't know. But so I want, it maybe it's, if we had to finance X number of months of, for whatever reason, can we do that? So.
Yeah. Well, we tell, oftentimes I have the conversation with clients, like, not all financial decisions are mathematical.
Right.
Sometimes they're emotional.
Right.
And if you need X amount of dollars sitting in a savings account or checking account at the bank, because that helps decrease your anxiety, then do it. Right. It's your money. It's your life.
There's a value to that. Right.
There is. I get that. It may not be the smartest thing to do. Same thing. Some people are like, I just want to pay off my mortgage. Even if there are other things I could do with my dollars that might be more beneficial, for me personally, I just want the mortgage paid off. That makes them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
It's your life, your money.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that too, is that there's you get to create and use your system the way that works for you, and and not to get caught in the comparison game. You know, if that's working for them, great, but it doesn't have to be me, and or they don't have to do it my way either. So
right.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, we better draw close on this.
All right.
And we'll pick up again with our next interview when we actually dive into the dream conversation. Okay. What I love about these interviews is people get to hear just real life, like, right? Midwestern, starting your own church, pastor, now have your own nonprofit, have a podcast, right? You and Corrine started young. We're broke, pinching pennies. And then just over time, you've expanded your thinking. And now think about this. You're doing IBC, which is a very small percentage of the population that does IBC. You're doing income stacking, which is an even smaller percentage of the population. And doing them together is a very, very narrow group of people that have combined these concepts. So not bad for us, Jeff King.
Well, thanks. It's good to be reminded of that from time to time. And one of the reasons why I like hanging out around with you.
You're a trailblazer.
Because it's it just, again, part of my Enneagram 9 personality system. It can easily have like self-doubt and feel like I'm a pretty small fish. And wonder if I'm doing it right, kind of a thing, which I'm sure everybody struggles with that at some degree.
Has having, because when we all started this, there wasn't really a community. There wasn't a lot of people out there doing this. Have you found that because the LSL community has expanded and now with online chats and things like that, has that helped that security piece for you, that encouragement?
It does, because, well, for one, not doing it all by yourself, you can always ask for help. And I love that I've capitalized on a couple times, peer-to-peer, coaching just on the chat to say, hey, suggestions for this. And I'll probably do that again for our next income stacking. What's the best route to go with that? It's good. Just hear how other people are doing it, what their stories are. That's going to be very, very helpful. So
good stuff. Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you taking the time, breaking out that Life Success Legacy quarter zip right there and your fancy microphone. It's good to see you. I love that you and Corrine chose to move to Lawrence, and I know my life has been enriched having you here in town, and we get to see each other on a regular basis. So
that's been great.
Super grateful for you and your friendship. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yep. For our listeners, thank you for joining in. We encourage you, as always, to check out our website at lifesuccesslegacy.com. Again, we have lots of upcoming learning opportunities. We have webinars, which Mike Everett does about every 2 weeks. Those are on Monday evenings that he does live. We have many books that you can check out written by some of our team members. But of course, we always encourage people to start with Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. That is the primary place to start your education, is reading that book. And then, of course, we have virtual boot camps as well as live events. And we look forward to our next episode of the Life Success Legacy podcast. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Jeff.
You bet. Thank you.